and any sort of mentorship or help that they need to get settled in the new country. So I would do something based on my experience in the women's support group, but I haven't had any thought because this is my first ever TED Talk, so I think I need some more time to put in some thoughts into it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So Western Australia, you're 5 hours behind me. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Gloria, how are you doing, my dear? Introduce
I'm
yourself.
good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, I'm Gloria. I'm Gloria Wilson. I am from Central Valley, California in the United States. And my TED Talk is going to be around health and wellness. I am a 2-time cancer survivor. I had uterine cancer twice. And I know we hear a lot about breast cancer, but I'm going to focus on my experience with uterine cancer.
Thank you. Awesome. You're sounding clearer. This is what, your second, third call? You've really refined it. And the trick is to try and say what your idea is in one sentence. Awesome. Kelly, welcome, welcome, welcome.
You already know my story.
Yeah, but you're sharing with other people. If you go for an interview for TED, you're not going to be talking to me. So what is your idea worth spreading? Tell us the title.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm 31 years old. I live in Auckland, New Zealand. And I had a serious car crash, thankfully only involving myself. I broke my neck, I broke my pelvis, and I have a traumatic brain injury. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, in a wheelchair for a year, and had to relearn to walk again. But now I do presentations to students, preventing such things from happening to others. I've spoken to over 2,000 students in the last 3 years, just trying to make them aware, which is extremely rewarding. And now with COVID, they all got cancelled, so I'm here online.
Great. And the title for your TED Talk?
My Drive to Survive.
Thanks, Kelly. Kelly's actually writing a book as well with the same title. Thanks for sharing. Let's go to you, Clover. Welcome. Unmute. Tell us where you are. What is your TED Talk about? And the thing about sharing, ladies and gentlemen, is when you start hearing other people's things, what they're doing, there could be something somebody says that's going to help you refine what you're working on. So please be open to sharing. Clover Johnston, you're still muted. You're still muted.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am Clover Johnston, and I am in Vancouver, British Columbia. A little bit about me. I have, most of my professional career, I have been in the field of public relations. Coexisting with that, I also have been a teacher, mostly in tertiary education. I have lived in the UK where I did graduate studies. I have 2014 up until 2019, I was a teacher in China, originally from Jamaica in the Caribbean. I've had many life experiences, and if I was to summarize my life experiences in one word, it would be overcoming and or adapting. It's my first time, but I have been thinking about what I would talk about to anyone. And this is not my original words. It stuck with me from Les Brown, maybe decades ago. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And that pretty much encapsulates how I have lived my life and I have been on a journey, and I don't consider life a destination. I consider it an ongoing journey.
Fantastic. Thank you. Lovely to meet you.
Same here.
Coletta, unmute. Tell us a little bit about you. Let's go around the room. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You're still muted. You're still muted. No, we cannot hear you.
I'm not sure if you're referring to me.
Well, you can go while Coletta's trying to sort herself out. Coletta, you have to unmute, the unmute button. But is that, who just spoke? Introduce yourself.
Okay. Yes. Hi, my name is Elosia. I'm a certified life coach. I specialize in working with teens, young adults, and survivors of domestic violence. I am a mother of 3, and I've gone no contact with my oldest 2 children's father. So I'm also a survivor of sexual abuse, and so so I'm part of the ACEs connection community. So I don't have a title for my TED Talk yet, but I do pull from, you know, my own personal experiences being a mother at the age of 20 going on 21. And so my goal is to just encourage young people to not have to go through all of those things at such a young age. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's pretty much me in a nutshell, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on the call. Who's next? Coletta, do you want to give it another try before I go to Sonia? Not working. All right, Sonia.
Oh, is it now?
Ah, there we go. There we go.
I could wait for Sonia there if you called her already.
Go ahead, Coletta. Then Sonia will come on next.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, or good morning. I am right now in Arizona, although I live in California by way of London, where I met my husband, but I'm originally from the Caribbean, like Clover. I am from St. Lucia in the Caribbean. I spent most of my life in diplomacy, and one of the things I would really want to craft a talk about is how I thought I failed someone miserably, and I didn't realize that I had actually helped them, although I thought I had failed them. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, it was a child who was abused, and she came to call me mother, although I never adopted her. But in the end, now she calls me mother because she sees me as an example to emulate, as she has struggles, but she makes me feel so very attached to her because although I spent so little time with her, it was like 4 years, it really was a time that apparently I impacted her so wonderfully. It actually made me adopt 2 other children, and now I have 3 of them.
Oh, lovely.
They're all grown up, of course.
So if you were to give a TED Talk, what would it be on in one sentence?
I think in trying to help people, and you think you failed them, you may not have failed them. So the essence is to try to help anyway. Try to give it a go. Try to make an effort to help others, especially people who have gone through really rather bad, painful situations. Mm-hmm. Because I had a lot of negative activity or a lot of negative talk to me that I shouldn't go that way to help someone who wasn't related to me. And now I feel so much joy. I think my talk in a nutshell would be, there might always be joy in helping, even when you think you failed.
So something like the joy of giving.
Even when you think you failed.
So, yeah,
I
okay.
think,
Yeah, that's important. Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sonia, welcome. Where are you based? Give us an essence of your presentation. We're about to start.
Okay, I'm from Perth, Western Australia.
Another one from
And,
Perth.
yeah, sorry?
We've got
Perth.
two from Perth now. Yeah, okay.
Okay, right, okay. And I actually, because I've got a passion for so many things, I haven't actually determined what I would really like to focus on. So I've got quite a eclectic background, having sort of qualified in pharmacy and sort of consider myself a sort of scientist, but having had a spiritual awakening in 2014, I've come into lots of interesting gifts. So I think the theme of my TEDx talk would probably be along the lines of waking up.
The connection is not very good, Sonia.
In a nutshell.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me okay?
Your connection broke up there for a second. So maybe next time I ask you to talk, maybe switch off the video.
My internet, I'm going to take... I've turned off my video because there's...
Yeah, it will help clear the line.
No, that's why I've just turned off my video.
Okay, so we'll move on to Mesani and then we'll get started. Mesani.
I've turned off my video, if that helps.
Okay. Mesani, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Meenu Seni, and yeah, I originally born and brought up in India, and from last 2 years I'm living in Australia after marrying with my husband. And after marriage I moved I migrated to country Australia, and I'm living in Melbourne. So the topic for my I'm working currently as an administrator and then project officer. I left my organization. I just recently moved to new organization, and that transition period was so life-changing for me and emotional for me. Is like, I've learned a lot from previous organization, and now it's like, okay, I'm moving to the new one. Is that a right move? Or so, yeah. And so the title for me to a TED Talk would be embarrassing the change. So like, if we are not happy with any situation and we are not feeling like it's, giving us so much and it's making our, day-to-day life enriched, it's like we shouldn't be like hesitate to move on and get a new look forward for the new opportunity, because that transition period may be difficult to make a decision and completely forget our previous journey, but it's like focusing on the dreams and don't afraid of the change, because it might be so it might be difficult at initial stage, but as long as you're following your passion, embarrassing change shouldn't be heard for a longer time.
Okay. Now, the reason why I did this, ladies, is because a lot of times people want to do a TED Talk and the idea is very, very fuzzy. They say that if you can't say it in one sentence, you don't really have a good idea.
Right.
Now, the TED Platforms tagline is ideas worth spreading. They focus on people who are thought leaders, who are change makers, who are going to bring a completely different way of thinking about a particular subject that you're passionate about. So I always do this when I do my webinars, so I get a feel of who's in the room How can I be of best service to you so that by the time we finish this webinar, you have more clarity on how to move forward with your idea? One or two of you is very, very clear. Some of you have got a maybe, I have an idea, maybe not. Some have a passion for something, but you haven't quite articulated it very clearly. So we're going to go through a process where I will take you through a step-by-step process on how to get clear on your unique idea. Just always bear in mind that TED organizers are looking for people who have an idea worth spreading. So I am a 3-time TED speaker. I've been invited to speak on TED 5 times. The very first TED speech I did was not very well planned. I had just published a book, and I called my presentation Born on the Continent Ubuntu, which was the title of my book. It worked really well for me in hindsight, because now a lot of people Google the title, they find my book. I have managed to get opportunities to lecture in universities from all over the world. Slovakia, in Africa, the United States, Canada. People find me because the word Ubuntu is an African philosophy that is not very well documented. It's spelled U-B-U-N-T-U, and if you Google the word, you'll find Linux software. And when I decided to title my book this way, I knew that a lot of people in the world think that Ubuntu is just a piece of software, but it's not. The software is actually based on this African philosophy. And because in Africa we pass down our knowledge through stories, storytelling is what we do. We have a lot of information that hasn't been documented. There's no books. So I found a very unique word that is in the mainstream in terms of computer jargon, but Linux did not acknowledge that their software is based on this African philosophy. And a lot of times there's a misappropriation of intellectual ideas, intellectual content. When colonizers come to Africa, they don't acknowledge where these ideas come from. So I wanted to claim it back as an African person. And by accident, I branded myself as an Ubuntu expert. What happens when you get on TED is that it changes everything in your life. Even if you're invited to speak at a TED event and there's 5 people in the room, do not be discouraged. Because the minute your video gets onto the internet, onto the TED.com website, you are speaking to millions. TED gives you visibility. TED gives you credibility. So when people are looking for speakers, they will Google you. They will see what platforms you've spoken on. And just putting that label that you've spoken on TED, it literally quadrupled my speaking fee. So before I did a TED talk, I was getting about 3,000 New Zealand dollars to speak for an hour. If I spoke in Australia, maybe 5. The minute I got on TED, I started getting 10, 15, $45,000 speaking opportunities to speak for 1 hour. That's the leverage that you get when you can slap this label onto your resume. And the other thing that happens is you start getting found in very unusual ways. The first awakening for me was I was found by a billionaire family who are based in Pittsburgh. There's a football team called the Steelers in the United States. It's owned by a family called the Rooneys. And Mrs. Rooney was a professor at a university in Pittsburgh, a private university. And when she retired, she created a position, an academic position called the Rooney International Scholar. They bring in poets, writers, musicians, philosophers to this university. I was paid $10,000 a month to lecture 2 hours a week. I was given a fully furnished 5-bedroomed house. I was given a car. I was given a food budget. And the students would come to my house. I had a Zimbabwe flag flying outside. So I'm from Zimbabwe originally. I felt like an ambassador. Absolutely fascinating thing. But what happened with that opportunity is that my memoir, my life story transitioned from just being a woman's story into the academic world. They started buying my books by the box load because Ubuntu is taught in the IT department. So I could go and lecture in IT and talk about the origins of Ubuntu. Fortunately, IT was my first profession. I was a COBOL programmer, systems analyst, project manager for most of my career. I was able to talk about Ubuntu in leadership. I was able to talk about Ubuntu in business. I was able to talk about Ubuntu in social anthropology. So I never saw that coming. So you could start off with an idea, Gloria, like your illness, that will get picked up by some medical university. And they want you to talk to a bunch of nurses about what happened to you, how you got through your medical challenge. And it will position all of your content in a completely different way. And right now, because of COVID, I'm getting found by universities who ask me to come and lecture and do private lectures for them. And it has been just absolutely phenomenal. I'm getting $2,500 to do a 1 hour, 90-minute lecture, just sitting here at home in New Zealand. And because of COVID, the world is flat now. The world is flat because everybody is online, and this is our time as women to be heard and to be seen. I changed my profile on LinkedIn and I put the words diversity and inclusion consultant. I can do that because I'm a person of color. I can do that because I'm a woman. With the Me Too movement, right now organizations are looking for more women to come into their organizations to share, to talk, to give lectures. So make sure that all of your online presence is optimized with the right words so you can get found. If you Google my name right now, just go into Google and type in Gertrude Mache, you will find thousands, and I mean thousands of references to my name. It's because I've created what's called a digital footprint so I can get found.
How do you spell your last name?
M-A-T-S-H-E.
Thank you.
And then if you go into Google Images and type in my name, you're gonna find thousands of photographs of me.
Oh.
Very, very deliberate. So every time I'm invited to speak, I rename the file of my photos. You know how you take a picture on your phone and it creates the digital numbers? Always rename the file name with your name because Google can only see words. It can't see images. So for you to be found visually, you have to make sure that you've optimized the actual image and rename it with your name so that you pop up through Google searches. So this is all part of preparing to do a TED Talk, creating what's called a digital footprint. And TED organizers will go onto YouTube. They want to see you in action. If you want to be a speaker, you have to be speaking. So from now on, whatever opportunity you get to speak, go with a friend. If you know someone in the audience, give them your phone or just give it to a random stranger who's in the front seat and say, please record this for me. And then you can upload it to your own YouTube channel and start collecting a library of TED presentations or of any presentations that you can share with TED organizers. Now, some of you have come to my previous webinars. I normally start with a webinar that covers the TED application process. If you haven't watched that video, I have done several of them. Go onto my YouTube channel. It's called the Her Story Circle TV, and look for how to apply to get on TED. It's a very long process, and I've really broken it down to make it easy for people who want to get on TED to prepare. And all of these things that I'm talking about now, creating your digital footprint. So in today's presentation, I am going to focus on helping you get clear on that unique idea. And you have to remember that the number one most important factor to landing a TED Talk is your idea. Nothing else is going to get you there. While your credibility, experience, awards, and connections can help, your idea is the core to your application. And you can't buy your way onto a TED platform. It is a process that is very transparent. You will be screened. You have to submit an audition video. You will be interviewed. And by the time they choose you, you will have come through thousands and thousands of other people who are trying to get on TED. So before beginning your TED application process or speaking application process with any organization, get 100% clear on your unique idea. Because what happens is if you are clear on the unique idea, you can then position that idea in different places. I can talk in business, I can talk in social anthropology, I can talk as a philosopher. It's the same idea shared from different perspectives. So all of my TED Talks are about Ubuntu, but from a different perspective. So what makes a good idea for a talk? It has to be something that's new. It has to be something that's surprising, that draws in people with curiosity. It has to be something that challenges a belief. Or it can be an old idea that is being shone with a new light. So my idea is not new. Ubuntu is an ancient African philosophy. The only thing that's new about my content is that I'm bringing it to the mainstream. I'm bringing it to the Western world so people really understand what Ubuntu means. So keep in mind that a new idea doesn't have to be groundbreaking or revolutionary. It's the lens from which you are portraying that idea, the lens that you view that idea, that can be the difference between a common idea and a unique idea. And your initial idea may be very, very common. So your ability to creatively remix it and find connections to other ideas or parallels is what will make it unique. So throughout this webinar, I'm going to take you through a process that's designed to help you flesh out your unique idea worth spreading. And before we begin, give yourself complete freedom to answer a few questions as openly and as honestly as you can. And please do write this down because it re-emphasizes the learning. And your best idea might be centered around what you are most passionate about. So Sonia, when you said that you have a lot of things that you are passionate about, that can be a blessing or a curse because you might not know which one to pull out and focus on. But from what you said, having had that spiritual awakening, there is something that happened in your life that got you to think differently, to see things differently. That might be a very good place for you to anchor your talk if you have a passion for many things. We're not going to be naming your talk at this point. We'll do that later. Sometimes the naming of your speech comes out of the content we will build through this process. So let's dive right in. So the first thing I want you to do is think about what are the 3 potential ideas you want to share and write them down, list them 1 to 3. 3 ideas. And by answering these questions, it will really help get your creative juices going to now choose one of those three ideas. I want you to think about what fires you up in the world. Is it something that makes you angry, like climate change and people not being aware of what's going on in the world? Is it a passion that you have, like I have a passion to spread the Ubuntu philosophy? I could talk about it 24/7. I don't get tired. Is it something you're excited about? Or is it all three? What really fires you up right now? The next thing is, what pulls at your heartstrings? Is there a cause out there that you feel empathy for? Or what's going on in the world that's making you upset? Yesterday when I had this webinar, I had a woman who talked about how her brother and his wife are anti-vaxxers. They don't believe in having the vaccines. And she's worried about her little nephews and nieces not being vaccinated and the impact that will have on the rest of the family. So these are topical issues. They're going on right now because of COVID. You could wrap your presentation around something that is current, something that is going on in the world, and be very, very effective in demonstrating what that is. So what do people ask you about? What are you uniquely qualified to talk about? The thing that you love to discuss, the thing that people come to ask you questions about. Your talk could be wrapped around that. If you've written a book or a thesis like you have there, Aileen, or you want to write a book, why do you want to do that? Or why did you write that book? I want you to tell me that answer in one sentence. And then go back and think about the chapters in your book, or what could be potential chapters in your book. It'll help you collect the ideas of the things that you really care about. The other thing I need you to focus on is really digging into the things that you know about through your career, through your relationships, through your life experience. You know, sometimes there's myths, there's legends that we know about, there's misconceptions that people have. There's a lot of misconceptions that people have about African people that I talk about. So what are those misconceptions that you could become an expert at explaining? Is there anything that frustrates you about the way people think about your life, your career, your sexual orientation, your circumstances? Another thing that you could anchor a really good talk on. So now that you've got all of these thoughts out of your heads and on paper, let's take a look at what could make a unique idea worth spreading. Your TED-worthy idea should have three main components. So I'm going to share my screen, and I want you to, let's see if this will work. Look at this Venn diagram for a second. And you're going to draw three circles. The one at the top says meets an unmet need. The one on the left says in domain of authority. And the one on the right says have the passion to share. And you will see that in the middle, where all these three circles intersect, is the sweet spot of an amazing idea. So if you go back now to all of your answers that you've just given me, you can actually plug them in to this diagram.
Yes.
That makes sense? Meets an unmet need. This is something that you have a solution for. You know, I've talked to people who have overcome depression through mindfulness, for example. I've met people who, like myself, have found a way to share how to spread the Ubuntu philosophy. My second TED Talk is actually called Ubuntu 2.0. So I used IT jargon, the 2.0. The subtitle to my presentation is Humanity's Operating System. Because Ubuntu is an operating system, I decided to play on the same IT jargon and say that I'm talking about Ubuntu being humanity's operating system. So at the end of my speech, I give people 3 things that they can do to install this Ubuntu philosophy. And it's very, very simple. You put your family first, your community next, and then if you can do something somewhere else in the world, make a difference there too. So every good TED Talk has got at the end steps, 2, 3 things that people can do when they leave that theater to implement and spread your idea. That's what's called a call to action. And as you are working on your speech, remember that people will only remember what you said in the very beginning. They'll remember what you say at the very end, and everything in the middle can get lost. So make sure that you put your most important ideas in the beginning and at the end of your speech. So now go back to your previous answers and slot them in here. In domain of authority is the things that you are known for, the degree that you studied, the go-to subject that people come to you to ask. And then, of course, the last circle, the things you have a passion to share. Because I tell you, if you are passionate about your idea worth spreading, you can talk about it 24/7. You can get hired to talk about it from different perspectives. It becomes your go-to place. Now, the next thing we're going to do is really take these apart. What need in the world are you currently meeting? As an expert, as a thought leader, as a philosopher, as a teacher, wanting to get on TED with an idea worth spreading. I'll give you an example. The idea in the world that I'm currently meeting is the significant rise in youth anxiety rates, as well as depression and suicide, and presenting a 3-part solution that addresses the root of this issue. So for people to truly pay attention, they must have a reason to want to listen to you. Therefore, your idea must either be to solve a problem or realize an opportunity for the audience. It must be something of value to them. Always remember that when you're speaking, it's got nothing to do with you. It's not about you. It's about your audience. And you also have to remember that you are not the hero to the story. Your audience are. So unless they can see themselves through you, they can't spread that idea. They can't take it home. Your video will never go viral. And most people don't always know that they have a need. Some people don't even know that there is an opportunity. The way I illustrate this when I talk about Ubuntu is I'm one of those people who talks to random strangers every single day. If I'm at a bus stop, in a bank queue, if I walk into an elevator, I'm that crazy woman who doesn't face the door. I face everybody in the lift and I start cracking jokes and I make them laugh. And most people don't realize the need for connection I've had people who walk out of the lift with me and they'll say something like, you know what? I haven't laughed that hard in such a long time. They didn't even know they had a need to laugh. And laughter is medicine, right? So wherever I go in the world, I am injecting my medicine and just bringing joy in other people's lives. The opportunity that's there is that some people miss opportunities because they don't know how to connect. I've had a magical life, and I tell people that I am a sum total of every single human being I've ever met. The way that we're on this call today is an opportunity. The way that we're going to be sharing our ideas is an opportunity. And sometimes people want to come on calls like this and they just want to be silent and just listen. But it's in the sharing, it's in the dialogue that ideas percolate and come through. So there is a rule to giving any speech, a 33% rule. They say that 33% of people who will hear you speak will absolutely love you. They will worship the ground you walk on. 33% of people will hate you. Be prepared for the haters. I've stopped going onto my YouTube videos and reading the comments that people put, because some of the comments can be quite horrible. And what disappointed me the most is that a lot of them come from African people like me. I have in my very first TED Talk where I talked about Africa, the country that I come from. And what I was referring to was that Africa was a country. Before colonialism, we had no borders. We were one people. But colonialists came in and they cut up the continent into different countries, and we started fighting amongst each other. They started highlighting our tribal differences. And now Africa is so fragmented because of that. But I've had African people who come onto YouTube and say, you're stupid. Africa's not a country. They don't get the essence of what I'm trying to say, and it's okay. So be prepared for the haters. The last 33% of people are just indifferent. They don't give a damn. They're just not interested in anything you're saying. So if you can create a speech that talks to the heart of the people who think like you, who act like you, who do like you do, you'll present a very effective TED Talk. So in one sentence, I want you to write the answer to this. The need that I am currently meeting is. What is that need? And because there's not too many people on this call, I'm going to make this call very interactive, and each of you is just going to come online and tell me, what is the need that you're currently meeting? Let's do it quickly. Let's do it fast. There's no right or wrong. And we'll start at the top with you, Aileen.
I'm just still writing it.
Okay. Or anybody who's ready, just unmute so we can go through the room quickly. And it's just a sentence. I don't want you to ramble on, just in one sentence. Gloria.
I will find another way to fight the uterine cancer.
Nice. Next one. Yes.
I would say overcoming stereotypes.
The need that I'm currently meeting is?
Overcoming stereotypes, because
stereotypes.
Yeah, because just to quickly summarize.
Don't give me the reason.
Okay.
Keep it to a sentence.
Okay.
And what I'm doing now is coaching you, because when you go for your interview with TED organizers, if you start to waffle, you lose them.
Yeah.
You will lose that interview. So just say it to the point with confidence. So what you said was perfect the first time. Who's next? Kelly, what is the need that you're meeting?
To make wise decisions. Sleep before you drive. Make wise decisions.
To make wise decisions. Sleep before you drive. To the point. Beautiful. You're already getting clear. Next person. Yes.
Etiquette matters.
Say it again.
Etiquette matters.
Etiquette matters. Fantastic. To the point. Anna. And we have a newcomer. Eleanor, jump in there. Any of you, just keep on going so we can move quickly through the webinar.
The 6 stages of grief, they no longer exist.
Beautiful, to the point. And you're challenging an existing paradigm there, that there is 6 stages to grief. Absolutely fantastic. Very controversial. Thank you. Next person.
Our story and personal voice resides within music.
Fantastic. Succinct, to the point. Sonia.
Giving others permission to feel good about themselves and their life.
Giving others permission to feel better about themselves.
And their life.
And their lives. Thank you. Very nice. Anna, Denise, anybody else? Clover?
Your ethnicity shouldn't determine your altitude.
Beautiful. I like that. To the point. So you see what we're doing here, ladies, is we're really trying to get to the roots of what am I going to say when I go for that interview. And I'm putting you on the spot deliberately so you can get used to just talking off the cuff. They might throw questions at you that you hadn't really thought about. And so you've got to learn to speak without thinking too much, to a point where you've embodied your message. You can answer these questions on the fly. Does that make sense? Anybody else want to contribute before I move on?
Yeah, I'll say, this is Janice, to teach women better relationship habits and principles.
Beautiful, to the point. Anybody else?
To open people's mind and vision to accept the changes.
Fantastic. Awesome. Euligia, I hope I'm saying your name right. And Anna, you're the last two. Okay, I'll move on. So I just wanted to demonstrate to you that getting clear with your idea is paramount. The next thing I'm going to ask you is your domain of authority. What are you uniquely qualified to talk about? I'll give you an example. I am uniquely qualified to talk about youth anxiety and mental health because I was one of the statistics. I'm addressing, and I have a unique perspective as a 20-year-old, having also spoken to thousands of youth and educators about this issue. So Kelly, this one will be perfect for you. You are an authority about road safety because you are a statistic. And you have a unique perspective. As a 21-year-old, you got involved in an accident and you've been speaking to thousands of youth. So this one is really for you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be what's called a through line in every person's life and career. This is the theme that connects the sum total of your education, your experience, your profession, your life. That is your domain of authority. And your ideas need to be clear to connect to this. So when I think of you, Aileen, with the music, I sense that music has been a very large part of your life for you to get to this point, go and study and come out with this thesis piece. Am I correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So you literally embody that message. So in one sentence, I want you to write down the answer to this. I am uniquely qualified to talk about ... because. And you guys don't have to worry too much. I am going to send you this recording so you'll have it and you can go through it so that for the sake of speed, I will go pretty quickly, but you can watch the replay. The last thing we're going to talk about now is the last circle in that Venn diagram that I showed you, the circle on the right. And the question is, what are you fired up about? What gets you passionate? An example is, I am so fired up about solving youth anxiety and mental health crisis because I know what it feels like to suffer from severe anxiety. And I know a way that anyone suffering can replace their anxiety with peace and purpose. So Gloria, you have overcome a health challenge. So you're fired up about solving challenges for women who have been given a diagnosis of cervical cancer or whatever cancer it is that you have overcome. And the thing is to always have the solution to the problem, because your solution becomes the call to action at the end of your speech. It's that little take home that people can do and implement when they get home. So if you're excited about your idea, your audience will feel it. If you're not excited, your audience will feel that as well. So what is the message that you feel that the world needs to hear? What is that thing that is burning inside you with a flame of passion? So in one sentence, I want you to write the answer to this. I am so fired up about because. So by now you should have got to a point where you know how your idea serves the audience. You know why you're qualified to talk about it. And you know why you're so excited and passionate about this message. I'm going to give you a few examples and I'm going to unmute and get you to say what this is going to be for you in one sentence. What is an idea that you want to share? Here are four examples. Number one, rock bottom is a catalyst for growth and success. If you choose to find the opportunity. Example number two, the youth anxiety epidemic can be solved by focusing on external pressures, the misuse of social media, and the lack of mindfulness coping mechanisms. Number three, the key to skipping small talk and connecting with anyone comes down to one simple approach. That's a solution. And the last example is great leaders inspire action by starting with why. That is actually a TED talk by a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. And he did an amazing TED talk on starting with why. So going forwards, I want you guys to live and breathe your idea. Go onto TED, watch TED events, take them apart, see how other people are doing it. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. There's a formula to giving a good presentation. So I watch TED in the morning when I'm having breakfast. I have it at lunch. I watch it before I go to sleep. I watch at least 3 TED Talks a day. I do it so I can help my clients. Some people come to me and they don't really have an idea, and I might have watched something that is similar to the content that they want to present, and I just point them in the right direction. But I also do it to get inspiration for myself, finding different ways that I can articulate my content. So let's unmute and go again around the room. We're going to start at the bottom. Anyone, unmute and give us that one sentence.
I'm sorry, what sentence?
So The last thing that I said you should do is, I am so fired up about because.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Who would like to start?
I'll start.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm fired up about others having a profound awakening experience, because assisting them with that, because they will come to know and embody the fact that they are a soul disguised as a human being, which will transform their life. It's a bit more long-winded, I know, very long-winded, but I can try and condense that.
So the easiest way to condense that is to keep referring to yourself.
Right.
Stick to your personal experience. They say show, don't tell. That sounds like you want to preach to people. You want to tell them you have the way. Show them the way that you found it for yourself. That's the best way to teach. So if any of you have got something you want to teach other people, show, don't tell. Do it by example. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It cuts out the fluff. Who else would like to try? Yes?
I am fired up about music because it has given me a platform to express and navigate my life experience and family trauma.
Awesome. Beautiful.
It's not too wordy?
It's not too wordy. It does need refining, but it's a good start because it's personal. It's about you. Eleanor, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am fired up about the understanding of loss, grief, and the renewal of that place it plays in your life.
Okay.
I don't know if I need to
right
add
answer the because. So pay attention to the words because I have experienced grief. Because it keeps going back to you as the authority of the experience.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes. So because I have experienced loss and grief, I understand its place in my life or your life, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. And again, remember when we started, you talked about the 6 stages of grief do not exist, I think you said. So find a way of tying it back to that as well. You don't have to do it now, but just going forwards, okay?
Okay.
Anyone else? I am fired up, yes?
I am so fired up. Cultural awareness, because I have been so misunderstood because of my journey in my life.
Fantastic. And you could be even more specific, because of my journey as a woman of color living in a foreign country.
Or in many countries.
In many countries, exactly. Very nice. We'll start at the top, then we'll come to you, Kelly. Nelima?
All right.
Yep, start with you, and then Kelly.
Yep. I'm fired up about overcoming inequality and workplace challenges. It is because as a woman of color, I had to fight to get my seat at the table.
Perfect. Beautiful. To the point. Kelly.
I'm fired up because I've been through hell. I want to prevent it from happening to others.
Fantastic. Really good. You're getting so clear, Kelly. Hey, welcome. I know you jumped in a little bit late. You can always watch the replay, but if you feel like contributing anything, jump in there. Anybody else want to contribute before I move on?
Yes, I do. Okay. You go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm excited and fired up to share how my experience as a woman of color exceeded the expectations of the white world.
Awesome. To the point.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. Denise.
Okay. I'm all fired up about women making bad relationship choices because it affects the children just as it did for me.
Perfect. I love that. But can you see what's happening? As we are sharing, you are getting clearer and clearer and clearer about your ideas. And this is why I like to coach people in a group. Because one person can say something and then you think, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. And you can tweak your words slightly just based on what somebody else has shared. So this is a collective creative process we're going through. May, do you want to jump in there and tell us why you're passionate about your idea? One of you, anyone? Unmute.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was fiddling with the button. Good morning, ladies. It's May Rose O'Connell from the Gold Coast, and I believe you're all fired up, and I'm all fired up about ladies in their senior years finding their voice, who have assets that have never been discovered yet.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Next, Minu.
Yeah. So I'll start with why holding back? Because you're a woman, or because your elder wants you to do it, or because your society wants you to do it. So I'm so fired up for unfair that we accept other people's vision, not ours.
Okay, so again, don't waffle. What you said in the beginning is not relevant. I am fired up about, and just go straight into it. Don't try and have to explain yourself, because that's where things get lost in translation in terms of your message. Make sense? Okay, awesome. Thank you for playing the game, ladies. Does anybody else want to contribute before I go on? All right. So what I like to do with these webinars is make them so interactive that by the time we leave, you feel like the hour you spent with me was worthwhile. So I'm going to summarize with a few things. The things you have to have in your speech is, number one, clarity. Your core message has to be expressed in a single sentence. If you can't do this, you don't have clarity. Number two, passion. Your core message has to be something that you truly, truly, truly believe in. Number three, knowledge. What do you know about the core message? Can you draw any personal stories from personal experience? Have you done any research on the topic? Somebody here has written a thesis, which means you've spent hours and hours researching. So that's how you get to an idea worth spreading. So the action steps I want you to take away are these. I want you to think of 3 people who you respect. Could be people that know you really well. Send them a text, give them a call, explain that you're applying for a TED Talk and you want to run your idea by them. Share the idea in 1 sentence, like what we've just done, and ask them the 3 questions from that picture that we showed earlier. If you can't articulate it in 1 sentence, you need clarity. Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it enough. So you've got to be able to explain your idea to an average Joe. Dumb it down like you're talking to an 8-year-old. So this is a great way to test your understanding and your ability to articulate in 1 sentence. And you can always go back to the information that you wrote down about the idea and include your answers in the Venn diagram, like I said. So it's about sharing it, getting feedback, refining it, and improving it. That's the only way you're going to get on TED. So now we're going to have an interactive session where it's now your turn to unmute, and let's individually share what you got out of today, what questions are still coming up for you, Some people emailed some questions in the spreadsheet that I gave you. Some people didn't. So just a show of hands, if I can't see you, raise your hand through the little reactions thing. And let's just go around the room and pull out some questions in terms of how to get on TED, things that have come up for you. Anyone? I know it's a lot to digest, a lot to take in. The application process alone is almost like a 3-4 hour process. But once you go through it once, the questions that are asked on all of the TED websites are almost the same. So if you get clear once, then you're just copying and pasting and sharing the same information. Francis Whitaker, welcome to the webinar. You will get the replay to this. Yes, thank you, Sonia.
I liked your suggestion to listen to TED Talks, and the fact that you listen to a TEDx talk. What did you say, 3 times?
3 times
a day?
When I'm having breakfast, first thing I do is I'm on TED. During my lunch break, wherever I can get a free moment, whether I'm on my bike, biking, I live and breathe TED.
So when you get the time to actually dissect them and sort of see what you liked and what do you get time to dissect them?
Well, the thing is, this is what I do. This is what I do professionally. That's what I do for a living. I dissect speeches, and I help my clients to get better by doing that.
Right. Okay.
And I love it. You know, I'm one of those people who, as a child, I was punished for speaking. Now I get paid to do it. And that's what I'm talking about. When you have a passion for something, it consumes you. It's like food to the brain.
Okay, so that was great for me to hear you say that. So I'll be doing that, listening to them on a regular basis.
They say that don't try and reinvent the wheel. Success leaves clues. People who are successful leave the clues for us to follow. There's a great TED Talk called The Secret Structure of Great Talks. Go onto TED's website. It's a researcher who did a research on the best orators in the world, from Martin Luther King to Gandhi to you name it. She dissected thousands and thousands of speeches. And there is a rhythm to great speeches. When people hear my presentations, they say that I take them on a roller coaster ride of emotions. And I really do. In one moment, I will be telling a sad story. In the next moment, you'll be crying until you pee. Unless you make people feel something when you speak, you fail to communicate in the language of humans. I have made grown men cry at my presentations. I've had men say to me, I have never cried when I hear somebody speaking. But it's the place that I speak from. I try and speak from my heart. I have studied with the Heart Math Institute. If you've never heard of them, go online, find them. There is power in using your heart to communicate. They have researched that the human heart has got a magnetic field that spans the length of your arms. And it doesn't matter whether you're seeing the person in person or experiencing them online. People can get through to you with their words depending on where they're speaking from. And I train and help people who have gone to Toastmasters, for example, and they learn how to recite a speech to perfection, but they leave you feeling cold. They will know their speech word for word, but just leave you indifferent. It's because they're in their heads trying to remember the words for their speech. So you could make mistakes in your speech and still deliver a standing ovation presentation based on where you're speaking from. So it's having that emotional intelligence on how to communicate. For those of you who English is not a first language, this is not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is Shona. I learned to speak English like this from an early age, but I've perfected how to articulate in English by slowing down if you have an accent so people can understand you. Don't speak too fast. I have learned to put those pauses in places. Don't be afraid to pause when you're speaking. Don't be afraid to breathe. A lot of people forget just to breathe while they're giving a presentation because they're rushing to try and finish the speech. So on TED, you're allowed a maximum of 18 minutes. Don't write a speech that's 18 minutes. Write a speech that is 13 minutes. Because when you're in front of a live audience and you get a reaction, you have to pause for that reaction. And right now, people's attention span is very limited because there's so much video content going out. Somebody's more likely to listen to a speech that is 12, 13 minutes than one that's 18. They'll listen to it from beginning to end. So TED organizers will want you to fill 15 to 18 minutes. Don't listen to them because your mission is to get onto their platform and to get onto YouTube using the TED branding to amplify your voice. That's the reason why you want to get on TED. And you'll find that if you can synthesize it to 13 minutes, it cuts out the waffle. You will create a speech where you're not trying to fill time. So you always start with the beginning of your speech, the middle of your speech, and the end. The beginning has to grab people within the first 30 seconds. If you don't have them in the first 30 seconds, they will not listen to the rest. And you grab them in two ways. They say you have to give people a sound bite, something memorable that will anchor in their brains, and you have to give them a visual bite. So the way that you look is important. I show up like this every day, wearing my traditional African clothes. Some people think I'm crazy. I put on my makeup. It's great because there's nowhere to go, but I've been doing this online for so long. What I look like is important to me. I do it to honor the people who are coming to listen to me.
Of course.
Part of my branding as well. So how many of you have gone through a personal branding workshop? Can you have a show of hands or type in the chat yes or no? Have you really thought about who you are as a brand? So when you become a speaker, you're no longer you. You are a Nike, you are a Coca-Cola, you are an Instagram. You have to be recognizable online so you don't disappear in a crowd. So I'll give you a little exercise as a bonus. When I take people through a branding workshop, and if anybody wants help with this, email me after this, we can connect and I'll take you through the process. But what 3 words best describe you as a person? My 3 words came out of a testimonial from one of my clients. So you might want to ask people who know you, your family, your friends, because you might miss the things that make you you. My 3 words came from one of my clients. She said something like, Gertrude is a vibrant bundle of African energy. I just loved it. It so embodied who I am. I think I'm a bit of a little fireball, 54 and going strong. And I pulled out the word African, I pulled out the word vibrant, and I pulled out the word energy. So I'm a very energetic speaker. When I go to speak at an event, don't give me a mic to hold in my hand. I might hit somebody with it. It will be all over the place because I express using my whole body, right? The African part of my brand is the most important. I'm living in a country where I'm a minority. There's very few Black people here. So I wanted people to say, you know, I went to this conference, I met this amazing African woman, and boy, her speech was great. So how are you going to know that I'm African? It's the way that I dress. It's part of my branding. The vibrant part of my brand is the colors that I choose to wear. You will never see me wearing black unless I'm going to a funeral. If I am wearing black, there will be a splash of red or yellow or green. If you see me wearing yellow, my energy levels are low. So I've been online since 5 o'clock this morning. I have just launched a 31-day conference. So if anybody wants to speak, I'm going to put in the chat a link where you go in and choose a speaking slot so you can practice this week. It's a 15-minute presentation just like TED. I'll put it in the chat now. And I'm looking for women to come onto this platform to practice, to learn, to refine their craft. Oops, no, wrong link. I'll share it again. Just give me a second. Now, I put on yellow because yellow energizes me. If you see me wearing red, that is my war color. I am up for a fight. It's my power color. So colors can energize an individual and they energize other people as well. So be very aware of how you're showing up in the physical world, how people are going to perceive you. The next thing you have to think about is the colors that go with your branding. So there is the document. Please click on that and choose a speaking slot. If they fill up quickly right now, send me an email. I will give you a different link. So if you said Coca-Cola, what are the colors that come to mind?
Red and white.
Red, white, and
Blue.
black.
Blue.
Black.
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 Is it
Red,
black?
white, and black.
Yes.
If you said Nike, it's a symbol. That tick sign, that is their branding. Yeah, that swish sign. So you could end up, as part of your branding, come up with a symbol that represents you. And then you make sure that you have what's called brand consistency throughout the internet. So if somebody finds you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, you have the same colors, you have the same logo, you have to have brand consistency to show up and not disappear in a crowd. Does that make sense? So there's a whole process on how to create a brand for you as a speaker. If you're inspired and you need help, email me. I will tell you what I do to help speakers show up. And again, going back to creating your digital footprint, there's so many ways to get that kind of visibility right now. Interviews on podcasts. People are looking for podcast guests. That is speaking. Interviews on radio shows, TV shows, anywhere where you're using your voice, but make sure that you're optimizing everything. Make sure that your website is optimized to find you with your name. So you're showing up in Google search. So we're going to end here. I have 3 coaching packages. One is a video course at $3,000. One is a group coaching course where I put you in a group of 10. It costs $5,000, but you come out of a 6-month program being a published author and a speaker. And then my $10,000 package is for somebody who wants to take this as a career, who wants help on how to develop their intellectual ideas, how to repurpose their intellectual content, and create a 5-6-figure income with your speaking. So it's all business oriented. So just put in the chat if you're interested in any of those. I give a massive discount to people who come onto my speaking platform because I am trying to create a competing platform for TED. I give 50% discount. We are now 10,000 strong. We are a social impact movement. Denise is one of my speakers, Gloria, May, Kelly. These are women who have seen the vision of the power of using our voices. And we have a 31-day marathon where every single day for the month of March, for International Women's Month, we're going to have 465 women from right across the globe participating. And in this particular event is where the people who come to me for the 10,000 packages get to see how you can make some serious money as a speaker, creating your own tribes and your own platform online. So thank you for coming online. I hope this hour and a half plus has been worth your while, showing up and getting some clarity. Just type in the chats anything that has come up for you, unmute. Let's just have a few words before we go.
Can I, this was excellent. I got so much, but I want to tell you something that surprised me. When you asked us to write down our 3 ideas and what makes us passionate, I realized that although my thesis is interesting, and I've talked a lot about it and I get excited about it, it's not the most important thing that fires me up. So as I was writing my list, I'm like, maybe I'll do a TED Talk for my 3rd TED Talk on music, but my first one will be something different, something that I wrote about in my thesis. Because although I wrote about, although I wrote about music, I wrote about how the lived experience, how music was an extension of the lived experience. But I wrote so much about lived experience and something about my mom. And that's really what I want to talk about. So I realized that here. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That process is very thorough. It gives you that laser clarity. And I'm telling you, if you can create a speaking career talking about the things that you love, this doesn't work for me. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. Kelly was with me in the morning when we were on the Zoom call. My team is actually online right now, continuing the conference. I could do this 24/7. I have to take granny naps in between, admittedly, but you can craft a speaking career that just lights you up. And my passion is to find that woman who's never used her voice to the maximum. I prefer to work with women who have never been on stage, women over the age of 50. And magical things happen when you find your voice. It's a generational thing for me, especially being an African woman coming from a culture where women aren't allowed to speak. I know that I have broken a curse for my daughter, for my grandchildren, and for my lineage. I have created a line of strong, powerful women by the way that I'm showing up in the world. And that's what makes me do what I do. And through my speaking platform, I sponsor women who can't afford, who are from 3rd world countries. We have created an angel sponsorship, women who are sponsoring other women to get opportunities like this and come out of poverty by just using the power of their voices. It's an exciting time, ladies. And you know, the Me Too movement, everything that's been happening in the world, people are tired of elderly white men masquerading as inspirational speakers. This is our time as women to step up and be heard right across the globe. Fascinating times we're living in.
For sure.
Any other insights? Thank you for sharing that. I love that. This is what juices me up.
I got insight into what my passion was. I gained clarity around it. Yeah, so it was very, very helpful for me, the whole process. Thank you, Gertrude.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing that. And the institute I talked about is the Heart Map Institute.
Okay, thank you.
The Heart Map Institute. May Rose, you have your hand up?
Gertrude, thank you once again for a fabulous program. I'm inspired by what you were saying about knocking that old stigma of the speaking fraternity that we've known, like the platforms of learning how to speak. From you, it's more about us and not about what's expected of us to say what we think they want to hear. So it's very comforting to know that the institutes that speak, and I've been to a couple of them, and I was horrified. I just couldn't go back there. I felt so estranged because I had to be something that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not naturally. Yes, absolutely.
And taking away your uniqueness, yet your uniqueness that's the juice.
Yes, and if you didn't fit into that mold, you sort of were pushed aside and ignored. As and we old elderly ladies have been kicked the tin around for a long time, so we've got lots of stories. We've put our wisdom aside for families, etc. So now we want to all bring it out, and it's my passion to bring that out in women, because even though in Australia we had a culture that women didn't speak as well. So it was that tall poppy syndrome, and I really am passionate about knocking that on the head. So thank you so much for that insight, Gertrude. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. It's a pleasure. And ladies, I want you to also identify who is your ideal avatar. Who is this message for? The way I found my avatar was through one of my clients. I used to just advertise on Facebook, and my focus is always on women. And I've attracted a lot of men of late, but I just want to empower women for the rest of my life. I didn't really know the age group that lights me up until I was hired by a woman from Australia. Her name was Tuva Vine. Tuva was 57 years old when she went through a separation, divorce, sold everything she owned and packed a backpack and went to teach English in China. By the time I met her, it was 10 years after this. She was now 67. She's living in China, and it started off with me grooming her to write a speech so she could give a presentation. The next thing she said to me, Gertrude, I want to write a book. She was Dutch, so her English wasn't very good. So she hired me to ghostwrite this book, paid me $15,000 to do it. I ended up ghostwriting 3 books for her, $45,000 from one person. She hated technology. I love technology. Asked me to do everything technology-wise. So I set up a team, outsourced her Facebook, her Instagram, her LinkedIn, her Twitter. We created all of those platforms for her and managed them as well. So I created a business model where I wasn't doing all the work, but I have teams that can take on and do these other things, and I'm still creating a revenue, and I'm not exchanging my hours for dollars. The reason why I love group coaching, unless you're paying me $10,000 to $15,000, you don't get me one-on-one. I know the value that I bring to people. So if you want me at that level, fine, but you have to pay for it. And what I like about the group coaching is this kind of energy. You know, you guys have all stayed on this call because we're all inspired by hearing what we're doing. Group energy lifts people. So if you ever want to go into business as a coach, consider group coaching. I got, like you, May, you know, you are at a demographic where if you wanted to start right now and appeal to women over 80 and said, this is what I've done with my life, girls, come on board, I'll show you how. I had a 75-year-old woman who was in a retirement home who came to one of my speeches. She emailed me 3 months later and said, Gertrude, thank you for showing up in my life. I have checked myself out of that retirement home. She said, I have 25 to 30 years to go if medicine allows me. She got herself a job. But a lot of elderly people are being told that when you get to 65, your life is over. Get in a retirement home and wait to die.
Oh, no.
And you have so many stories. And that's why I like to coach women over the age of 50. They have the stories. They have the time to focus on themselves. They don't have little children anymore. Sometimes they don't have the husbands, or if they do, the husbands can wait while they focus on their passion. And it's all about me now. We've put in our time to look after our families and bring up our kids. And what happens for me is if I put in a budget to advertise on Facebook, if you want your Facebook dollars to go far, you have to have a narrow niche. You have to say, this advert is for women. It's for women from the age of 45 to 65. Your money goes further in reaching the right people. If you say this advert is for women and the languaging that you use doesn't appeal to the youth, you're going to lose them. Those young people won't even connect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So being super, super, super targeted on your target market is absolutely crucial. And what happens for me is the older women bring their daughters to me. They bring their grandbabies to me. I don't have to advertise to that demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And the way the young people on this call came on the call, and I'm curious to know, you probably saw this advert on LinkedIn, on Instagram, am I correct? Or did you see it on
Facebook?
Facebook.
Okay. Because now, if you put an ad on Facebook, it goes out to
it goes to Instagram as well.
And that's where I get the younger people coming in. Okay, ladies, what else do we have? Come on.
I have one question. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I notice on Facebook and on the internet, there's an awful lot of advertising for various platforms saying, we want speakers. Some of them, like yourself, say, we want women speakers or men speakers. Am I naive? Is there really a big call out there in the world for public speakers that pay?
It's massive.
Well, I don't understand why. What's happening?
We're all at home right now. People are in front of their computers right now. Everybody is at home in the world right now. That's number one. Universities are looking for guest speakers. They can't fly them in anymore. So wherever you are in the world, I just did a presentation for a university in Slovakia the other day. Slovakia, of all places, they found me through YouTube. So take advantage of this time to build your content and your material. This is a very unique time. I have a virtual assistant who goes onto on LinkedIn on my behalf, and in a day she will approach 100 people. I'm getting about 55 to 65 responses with people who will register to come to my events on LinkedIn. And the way we approach them is, hi, I've noticed that you're a speaker. Would you like to have a virtual coffee and explore an opportunity that we have? And the platform that I've created is a pay-to-play platform. People pay to come and speak on my platform. It's not free. The cheapest price is $97. You come in and you speak for 15 minutes. The next price is $447. The last one is $997. And what you get in the two, in the $997, you get published in an anthology with 10 other women. So you come out of the experience as a published author. You only contribute 3,000 words. There's 10 women in a book. We run what's called a KDP campaign. And a KDP campaign means we get all the women to buy the books on Amazon on the same day. We trigger the Amazon algorithm, so everybody's coming out as a bestseller.
Right.
So we're working in the collective. It's when women start to work together where we have power. So in the $997 package, you're coming out as a published speaker. You get 30 copies of this book that is worth $30. So that's already $900 worth of value. I created my own magazine. You get published in a magazine. So all of your information goes out into a database of 20,000 people. So you're getting exposure to other women who might come to you for your coaching. You also get to run a workshop at my event. So you speak for 15 minutes. If you've paid the $997 or the $447, you get to choose in the week that you speak to do a 1-hour workshop. So we advertise your workshop through our database. We charge $35 for that workshop. You will get $25 per person, we get 10. So now I found a way to pay my speakers for showing up. Guess what happens? If I have 100 women coming to my conference, they're going to push out through social media, come to this event, I'm speaking, I'm going to be running a workshop. So they're putting in marketing dollars to get people to their workshops because they know they're getting 35 bucks. If they get 100 people into a workshop, we make $3,500, of which they get 2,500. I get 1,000. So I've created a business model where I am not exchanging my hours for dollars. I'm looking for 465 speakers. If I just got 100 who came in at $997, I've already made $100,000 in a month, US. This is the power of using your voices, ladies, of creating your own tribes, of using social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, to amplify your voices. And because of COVID, I've also created a reality TV show. I told you I want to compete with TED. And TED got famous because those videos are being blasted through the internet. I'm creating a reality TV show very similar to The Voice, very similar to American Idol, but for speakers. The difference is people are going to come to New Zealand. This is the only COVID-free country in the world. New Zealand has just put film and healthcare workers. If you're making a movie or you're bringing in healthcare workers, you can come to New Zealand. So we're going to film from the North Island to the South Island of New Zealand, going from city to city, a 10 series, 10 episodes that I am pitching to Oprah's network and to Netflix. And each woman who will come and speak has to find a social impact project in her town, in her village, in her community that they want to raise money for. So it'll be crowdfunding. So these are the kind of ideas that I have that can really change things. Clover, your hand is up. Do you want to ask a question?
Right. I wanted to ask that your coming 30-day sessions, are you going to send out a link after this? How can we access? Because I'd be interested in being a speaker.
Okay, I will send out the replay that we've recorded, and I'll send out all the links to all of the crazy stuff that I do. My coaching programs, what you get when you come to the conference. I'll send all of that out for the replay.
That's good.
Okay.
And I will send you the replay to the 3 events I've done this week. They're all on everything we've done today, but on any given day, my presentations are different. I tailor them to the people who come into the room. That's why when we started, I got you to talk about yourself. I get a feel of where you're at. So although the content is roughly the same, watch all 3 of them because you'll meet other people like you who are there. People who said something that might trigger something else in you and help you refine your message.
Yeah, my thing at this time is that I have been a public speaker in the past, but by invitation. But right now I'm interested in getting paid, refining my craft and getting paid for it.
Yeah. My speaking fee went up when I got on TED. I was getting about $3,000 in New Zealand to speak for an hour. In Australia, the highest I'd been paid was probably 7.5. Then I got on TED, and these billionaires who found me in Pittsburgh gave me $10,000. The next thing I knew, there was the International Coaching Federation called me from Florida, and I hadn't spoken in the US as a keynote speaker. And I remember calling my dad, and I asked him, Dad, how much should I charge? My father gave me the best advice he's ever given me before he died. He said to me, Gertrude, the fact that these people have called you from America means you've made an impression on somebody. They could have picked an American speaker. They could have picked anyone. Why you? He said, think of a number, my child. Ask for what you want. Close your eyes and just say it. I called this woman back and I said $15,000 an hour. 2 days later, they said, please send us your contract. We want to hire you as our keynote speaker. So when I get booked, they pay me 50% when they book me and 50% when I've done the job. A week later, there's $15,000 in my bank account. So I thought they made a mistake. And I called the lady who was organizing and she said, no, we put 7.5. And what I forgot to do was to say New Zealand dollars. I just said $15,000. And at the time, the exchange rate gave me $30,000 for that keynote. I was talking in New Zealand dollars. They were talking in American dollars. But I also learned this. I left $10,000 on the table. They had a budget for $25,000 for their keynote. Now, as women, we don't know what our worth is. So now when I'm invited to speak, I never say my speaking fee. I say, what's your budget? I can work within your budget. And if the budget is small, don't worry. What you can do is push up how much you earn by bringing your books. You can get them to buy your books, buy the box load to give to everybody at the conference in their swag bags. My coach who taught me how to speak is a guy who wrote the book Chicken Soup of the Soul. His name is Mark Victor Hansen. He's from California. And Mark put a line at the end of my speech that has quadrupled my sales. The line that he put is, buy one for yourself, buy one for someone you love, buy one for someone who needs inspiring. He said to me, Gertrude, people need permission to buy multiple copies of your book. Unless you say it, they will buy one copy. It's all neuro-linguistic programming. I used this technique once. I was speaking at an event in the South Island, tiny little town. It has like 6,000 people, but it was part of the Rotary Club. And there were 200 people who had come from all over New Zealand to this conference in the South Island. And I thought to myself, Rotarians are people who are humanitarians. They love to do things to support a cause. And I had written my book to raise money for the AIDS orphans in Zimbabwe. And while I was on stage, my mentor's words came into my mind and I changed the line slightly. And I said, I know you've traveled from all over New Zealand to come to this conference. May I suggest that you buy a box of my books instead? There's 28 boxes. It costs $980. It's $35 a book. And take the box to your clubs and on-sell them to your members to support me. 17 boxes were bought that day, $17,000 worth of books. So you can make a lot of money as a speaker if you have product. What you have at the back of the room will make you more money than you have through your speaking fee. I have spoken at events where I speak for free, and I still know how to convert that room, turn people into clients, get people to buy my products, my books, my workshop. So it's all about how do you package yourself. I take women's books to the Frankfurt Book Fair every year because if you buy a book, write a book in English, it can be bought for its foreign rights. Women are getting paid an average of 5,000 to 35,000 euro per language. Same content. You can sell your book for its movie rights. It can be turned into a film script. If you're a woman who has a business process, you can repurpose your content into a webinar like this. You can repurpose your content into a video course. You can turn it into a board game. I've helped women who have written children's books, and we've gone into merchandising. Children's toys, a cartoon character, children's clothing can come out of just a book. If you're a person of color in a country where you're a minority, people will buy your content because there isn't that kind of content there. Does that make sense? So it's about learning how to use your point of difference wherever you are and using it to the maximum as a woman, breaking into those boardrooms. Right now, what I'm trying to groom myself is to get on boards, big corporates for diversity and inclusion as an expert. I've just found myself a mentor, a lady from New Zealand who sits on boards. She just goes into these meetings and they pay her $10,000, $15,000 a year to show up for meetings and give her view as a minority. Isn't that crazy? So it's all about appreciating your point of difference as a woman and seeing what you bring to the table, because until you value what you have, you can't convince anybody else about it. You've got to have that conviction and know where you stand and what you stand for. And confidence comes with practice, ladies. You know, somebody said to me the other day, Gertrude, I procrastinate. Procrastination is fear. Your voice is an instrument. You will never meet a person who plays the saxophone, the piano, the guitar, who says, I can just do this. No, they have been practicing for years to refine their craft. So your voice is an instrument. I say to people that I know people who can sing and they can hold you in the palm of their hand with this beautiful music. I can't sing to save my life, but what I can do is I can talk. So any more questions, ladies? We will call it a day. Let me see, any questions? No, I think we've covered everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you for playing the part, for being.
Thank you too.
My email is very simple. It's gertrude@herstorycircle.com. And to get my attention, write in the subject line, I attended your webinar. Because right now I am getting hundreds of emails and my virtual assistant will pull out those emails and we'll address them straight away, add you to the program to come and speak, and see what other magic we can do as we play with you going forward. So that's my email.
Great. Thank you so much.
It is an
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Blessings to you all. Stay safe.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.